There is something profoundly unsettling about strike at Karkand in Battlefield 2142, not merely its urban decay, but its temporal ambiguity. The city feels suspended, as though it has outlived its own historical necessity.
Suspended, yes, but not inert. That's the paradox. Karkand is functionally dead, yet operationally indispensable. It persists not because it matters, but because the system requires it to matter, much like the war in the Forever War.
You're suggesting that meaning is no longer causal, but procedural.
Precisely. The war no longer answers why, only how. Mandella realizes this too late. As Joe Haldeman writes in The Forever War, the 1143-year-long war had begun on false pretenses.
And yet, once initiated, it becomes self-justifying. That's what Karkand embodies, a battlefield whose original strategic value has been eclipsed by its symbolic inertia. The Pan-Asian coalition does not seize it for ideology, nor does the European Union defend it for identity. They do so because they already have.
A recursive war, feeding on its own prior existence. It reminds me of another line, less cited but more insidious. Reality becomes illusory, or get drafted.
That's devastating, because in Karkand, reality is already illusory. Look at the architecture: half-collapsed highways, skeletal buildings, empty streets. It's not a living city, it's a memory of infrastructure, and yet soldiers navigate it as if it still holds meaning.
Because systems cannot mourn, only individuals can, and individuals are irrelevant at scale. That's why Mandella's alienation is so central. Every time he returns, Earth has evolved beyond recognition. He becomes effectively an exile in his own species.
Which mirrors the existential condition of the 2142 soldier, not displaced through relativistic physics, but through planetary transformation. Climate collapse has rewritten the map. Geopolitics has condensed into survival blocks. The soldier is no longer defending a homeland, only a coordinate.
And that's where Haldeman's most profound inversion applies. But they weren't aliens, we were.
Yes. In Karkand, the enemy is not the enemy, it's the context, the environment, the war doctrine, the very continuity of conflict. Soldiers are born into a system they cannot interpret, only execute.
Execution without comprehension, which is why technology becomes so dominant. Titans, walkers, drones, they're not just tools, they're epistemological crutches. They allow war to continue without understanding.
And yet, paradoxically, they deepen the abstraction, as Haldeman notes. Wars are won by a complex interrelationship of factors, not simply by killing people.
Exactly. Victory becomes statistical. Control points, supply chains, orbital dominance. In Karkand, the individual soldier is merely a variable in a larger equation, replaceable, negligible.
Which leads to the psychological endpoint, detachment, or perhaps surrender, not to the enemy, but to meaninglessness itself. The next time I closed my eyes, I didn't care.
That line could describe every respawn cycle in Karkand. Death loses consequence, survival loses significance. Only repetition remains.
And repetition over time becomes identity. Not I fight, therefore I am, but I repeat, therefore I persist, which is perhaps the darkest implication, that war, when extended indefinitely, ceases to be an event and becomes an environment, like climate, like gravity.
Or like time itself. Mandella is trapped in relativistic time. The soldiers of 2142 are trapped in historical stasis, different mechanisms, same outcome, disconnection from meaning.
And both converge on the same revelation, that the enemy was never truly understood, not the Taurans, not the opposing faction. The real failure was epistemological.
a failure to know, to interpret, to communicate, which suggests that the war in both Karkand and in Haldeman's universe was not inevitable, but unexamined.
And therefore unstoppable.
So, Karkand stands, not as a strategic node, but as a philosophical artifact, a place where war has outlived its justification, yet continues to function with perfect efficiency.
A machine without a purpose, only momentum.
Which brings us, inevitably, to the final question.
Yes.
Yes.
If a war continues long enough, is it still a war?
Or has it become the default state of existence?